Are you one of those people that wakes up every morning and the first thing you do after stumbling out of bed is make yourself a nice warm cup of coffee to help you wake up? If you said yes, you're not alone. And your reason for consuming coffee is most likely that you need the extra boost coffee gives you because it naturally contains caffeine. You are not alone. 90% of Americans consume caffeine every single day, and over 75% of Americans' caffeine consumption is a direct result of drinking coffee, which suggests that the majority of Americans wake up every morning craving a cup of coffee. While this may seem harmless to you, I assure you it is much more of a problem than the general population would like to admit. First, I will tell you about the numerous causes for caffeine consumption. Second, I will tell you about the biological effects of caffeine consumption. And lastly, I will provide you a simple solution to lower your caffeine consumption. One reason for caffeine consumption is that it has been used by humans for thousands of years. Some historians believe that its first use may date back to the Stone Age. While caffeine may have been used during the Stone Age, it is not easily verifiable. Credit is given to Ethiopian nomads who noticed their animals consuming coffee seeds and gaining an extra boost of energy. They thus copied their animals' consumption habits and gained the same boost of energy. After that, caffeine spread throughout the world in many forms until it reached Europe in 1573 in the form of coffee. Before 1600, caffeine could be found in many forms throughout the world. However, there is more to be said about why we consume caffeine than simply because it is available throughout the world. The world we live in is constantly changing. Every day, the world grows more competitive and complex both on a worldwide scale and a personal level for each of us. The globalized economy we interact with has complicated our lives in many ways. We no longer live in a time where economic stability is achieved through development of community-based stores built and sustained by its members with little outside influence. Businessmen now want to dominate the market on a much brighter scale, giving rise to corporations like Starbucks, the coffee chain that familiarized the term barista over 40 years ago and has since spread to over 50 countries to the detriment of many local diners and coffee shops families used to frequently enjoy in earlier times. Not only are we expected to compete with large corporations like this, with the population increasing exponentially, there are more people to compete with for spots in your preferred college, the job you really want, or the grade you worked hard for. Big business and competition for everyday opportunities are some of the key components to caffeine consumption. To get ahead in such a competitive world, people seek to gain an edge on the competition, which for some means consuming caffeine, but they may not know what they are actually putting their body through. The effects of caffeine are known to almost everyone. It gives you an extra boost of energy, which can help you stay up all night cramming for a test, get you through the 2:30 feeling that you go through, or help you wake up in the morning. Something that is less recognizable than most is that caffeine is a stimulant that acts on the same receptor sites as amphetamines, cocaine, and heroin used to stimulate the brain. First receptor site that caffeine affects is the adenosine receptor site. Caffeine can bind to the adenosine receptor site because it has a similar molecular structure. However, the effects are very different. Adenosine is a neurotransmitter that causes drowsiness, and it causes blood vessels to dilate during sleep to allow more oxygen to flow to your brain. Caffeine blocks the receptor sites, so adenosine can't bind to make you drowsy or allow the blood vessels to dilate. With caffeine and not adenosine binding to its proper sites, your brain thinks that there is an emergency occurring because it is running at such a high speed. It triggers your fight or flight response, releasing adrenaline throughout your body. The release of adrenaline has many effects on the body, such as pupil dilation, your airways open, your heart rate increases, and your muscles tighten up. These are short-term effects that give you the awake feeling that coffee drinkers love so much, but it also puts a tremendous amount of stress on your body. After the initial awake feeling, you crash hard because of the stress prolonged adrenaline release is put on your body, making you crave another cup, which is why it is so hard to break the cycle of caffeine consumption. Long-term caffeine consumption can also lead to addiction. Caffeine consumption is known to affect the pleasure pathway in your brain, which releases dopamine. Dopamine is the psychoactive neurotransmitter that is associated with drug addiction. Caffeine consumption Consuming caffeine puts you in a hyperactive state that is supposed to occur only when real life emergencies are occurring around you and releases dopamine, which can lead to addiction. The ways to avoid this could not be simpler. Caffeine is found naturally in some foods, including coffee, tea, chocolate, and is added to many carbonated beverages. It is always going to be available in some form for you to consume. Knowing this, the only way for you to lower your caffeine consumption is to become an informed consumer. Read food labels to track your caffeine consumption throughout the day and avoid falling into the endless cycle caffeine consumption can create. If you're a person that really enjoys coffee, give decaf a try. Avoid drinking espresso, which contains a copious amount of caffeine. Almost everyone enjoys the flavor of pop, and many of the flavors you enjoy can be found in a caffeine-free form. A little effort is all it takes to lower your caffeine consumption. Caffeine is the most widely consumed psychoactive drug in the world. That does not mean it is harmless. The fact that so many people need a cup of coffee to wake them up every morning after getting a healthy amount of sleep is ludicrous and comical. Think about it. After sleeping all night, there's no reason to be drowsy. Morning drowsiness that people have come to think of as normal is actually caused by caffeine withdrawal. Long-term consumption makes you need caffeine, but if you keep your caffeine consumption in check, you will wake up alert and ready to take on the day. Take it from me, as I am most likely the only one here who does not consume coffee, chocolate, and chooses non-caffeinated carbonated beverages to limit my caffeine intake whenever possible.